everyone. So today, I will be tackling about team and team building. My name is Julia K. Pincina Lagsub, organizational concept. Classical organizational theory views organizations as machine with human being as an integral components. It emphasizes structure, efficiency, and clear hierarchies. The theory comprises 6 pillars. These are division of labor, departmentalization, coordination, scholar chain, structure, and span of control. So when we say division of labor, these are tasks that are divided to enhance specialization and efficiency. Departmentalization are activities which are grouped into departments to streamline operations. The coordination's objective is to ensure unity among different functions for cohesive action. Scholar chain establishes a clear hierarchy of authority from top management to lower level. Structures define the arrangement of roles and responsibilities within the organization. And lastly, span of control refers to the number of subordinates a manager can effectively supervise. So classical organizational design. Classical organization design provides a structured framework aimed at maximizing efficiency through clear hierarchies, defined roles, and systematic processes. However, its limitation highlights the need for more adaptive approaches in contemporary organization theory. So there are strengths and weaknesses of this classical organization design. So the strengths are efficiency and productive, clear hierarchical structure, standardization of processes, financial incentives, and stability in operation. While its weaknesses include rigidity and inflexibility, limited employee motivation, poor communication across levels, overemphasis on control. Although there are advantages of classical organization design, there are still existing reasons why there is a decline in use of this structure. The first one is changing workforce dynamic. The modern workforce is increasingly composed of individuals who value autonomy, creativity, and collaboration over rigid hierarchies. The classical organizational structure, characterized by strict hierarchies and top-down management, does not align well with these preferences. Another reason why there is a declined use of this structure is because of technological advancement. Rapid technological progress has transformed how business operates. The rise of digital communication tools enables faster information sharing and collaboration across teams, regardless of their physical location. In this context, traditional hierarchical models may hinder responsiveness and agility. Reason is emphasis on knowledge work. As economies evolve from manufacturing-based to knowledge-based system, the nature of work has changed significantly. Knowledge workers require environments that foster creativity and critical thinking rather than adherence to predefined roles and tasks typical of classical management papers. So the decline of classical organizational structures is driven by the need of agility in complex business environments, an emphasis on collaboration, over hierarchy, advancement technology that facilitate communication, changing workforce expectation favoring flexibility and empowerment, a focus on innovation as a competitive necessity, globalization required localized decision-making capabilities, and an overall shift towards employee empowerment. Organic characteristics of modern organizations are: it considered organization as a system composed of many subsystems. It is also regarded individuals as complex beings who can be motivated in multiple ways. It is a descriptive approach of studying organizations. It is also dynamic interaction with the structure. It is constantly subject to change as environment changes. It is both macro and micro in its approach. And lastly, it ensures better flow communication at all the level and effective control. So, matrix organization. Do you know what is matrix organization? So, for your information, it is a type of organizational structure that combines elements of both functional and project-based structures. In this system, Employees report to multiple managers, typically a functional manager. So a functional manager refers to the manager who oversees their department, and a project manager. A project manager naman are those manager who oversees a specific project. This dual reporting relationship allows for greater flexibility and collaboration across different departments, enabling organizations to respond more effectively to complex projects and changing market demands. So what is the difference between teamwork and task team? Teamwork is the collaborative effort of a group to achieve a common goal, where each member contributes their skill and knowledge to enhance the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the team. Successful teamwork relies on clear communication, defined roles, mutual respect, trust, and a shared sense of purpose among team members. On the other hand, task team, also known as an action group, is defined as a group of individuals who come together temporarily or permanently to accomplish a specific task or engage in a project. Life cycle of a team composed of 5 stages. The first one is forming. In the forming stage, members come together for the first time. This phase is characterized by excitement and anticipation, but also uncertainty. The next one is storming. As team progress in the storming stage, conflicts may arise as individuals begin to assert their opinion and challenges each other's ideas. After storming, the next one is norming. Members begin to develop strong relationships and establish norm for collaboration. The focus shifts towards building cohesion as individuals start to appreciate each other's strength and work collaboratively towards shared goals. The next one is performing. Members are now fully engaged in their task and can work autonomously while still supporting one another. The focus is on achieving high performance and meeting objectives effectively. And lastly, the last part of life cycle of a team is adjourning. This phase involves reflection on accomplishment and experience while also dealing with feeling related to disbandment.
Hello everyone, today I'll be talking about the key ingredients that make a team effective. These are the things that help team members work well together, stay motivated, and reach their goals. The main ingredients of a strong team include a supportive environment, skills and role clarity, superordinate goals, trust, team rewards, empowerment, and positive norms. So let's start with a supportive environment. For a team to work well, the environment around it has to support teamwork. This means that management encourages everyone to think and act like a team. They give the team enough time for meetings, create spaces where team members can share ideas, and show that they believe in the team's ability to succeed. When management provides this kind of supportive environment, it helps team members feel more comfortable and motivated to work together. So the next ingredient is skills and role clarity. Each team member should be qualified for their task, meaning they have the skills or training needed to do their job well. Beyond skills, everyone should also be willing to work together and support each other. It's important that all team members understand not only their own role but also the roles of others. When everyone knows who does what, it reduces confusion and makes teamwork easier. So now, let's talk about superordinate goals. These are the big shared goals that brings the team together. It's the manager's job to keep everyone focused on these larger goals. Sometimes, things like organizational policies or record-keeping requirements can actually push people to work more separately. So managers need to set things up so that the team stays united and focused on what really matters. So trust. Trust is another critical part of an effective team. Trust starts with the manager who sets the example by being honest, dependable, and open to ideas. Team members can build trust by keeping their promises, praising each other often, showing respect, and sharing information. When there's trust, team members feel comfortable working together and supporting each other. Another ingredient that encourages teamwork is team rewards. Rewards can be financial, like bonuses, or non-financial, like public recognition or awards. Rewards are most motivating when they are things that the team values and when they're given based on the team's performance. This way, team members feel recognized and for their efforts and are encouraged to keep working together. So now let's talk about empowerment. Empowerment. When team members feel empowered, they feel motivated and capable. Empowerment happens when members feel their work is meaningful, have the freedom to make some decisions, and see that their work has an impact on the team's results. Feeling empowered makes team members more committed and willing to go to the extra mile. Lastly, we have positive norms. Teams are strongest when they agree on positive norms or rules for how they will work together. This can include things like attending meetings, sharing responsibility for results, focusing on solving problems rather than on personalities, and thinking carefully before speaking. These norms can help the team work together more effectively and create a positive working environment. Two case activities that help teams work better together: team building and team coaching. Both of these are essential not just for individual teams but for the organization as a whole. So let's start with team building. Team building is all about helping team members learn how to work better together. In team buildings, members take the time to examine how they are currently working together, identify areas where they could improve, and develop new ways of cooperating. The main goal of team building is to make the team more effective as a whole. Think of team building as an opportunity for team members to spot any weaknesses in their teamwork and find solutions together. So this process helps create stronger bonds, improves communication, and makes it easier for the teams to reach its goals. But it's not just individual teams that need to work well. Cooperation is needed among all the teams that make up the organization. Higher level managers depend on teams working well together, both with individual teams and across the organization, to keep things running smoothly. When all teams cooperate, the whole organization becomes more effective. Next, let's talk about team coaching. Team coaching is a form of guidance provided by a leader or coach who works directly with the team. This is especially important for new teams that are just starting to work together. The leader's role in coaching is to help team members use their skills and resources effectively as a group. Through coaching, the leader can help the team communicate better, overcome challenges, and make the most of each member's strengths. Coaching focuses on supporting the team as it develops, encouraging positive teamwork, and helping members find ways to use their unique skills for the benefit of the group. The need for team building and how to know when it's necessary. Not every team needs to engage in team building all the time, and even a team that's struggling doesn't always need constant attention. But many teams can benefit from occasionally looking at how they work together and making improvements. So there are certain signals that show when it's a good time to focus on team building. Here are some key signs to look for. Interpersonal conflicts. If there are frequent conflicts among team members or between the team, and its leader, this is a sign that communication or cooperation may need improvement. Team building can help resolve these conflicts and rebuild trust. Low team morale or cohesiveness. When team members don't feel positive or connected to the group, it can lower team morale. Team building can improve morale by encouraging bonding and helping everyone feel like they are working toward a common goal. Confusion about roles. Sometimes team members may be unsure of their responsibilities or there may be disagreements over who should do what. Team building can clarify roles so that everyone understands their part in the team's success. Large influx of new members. When many new people join the team at once, it can disrupt how the team operates. Team building activities can help new members adjust and integrate into the group, which keeps the team working smoothly. Disagreement on purpose and task. If team members disagree on the team's purpose or the task they're responsible for, it can be hard to stay focused. Team building can help the team revisit its mission, align on goals, and make sure everyone is on the same page. Next is the negative team climate. A negative team climate where there's a lot of criticisms and bickering can make teamwork challenging. Team building can help shift the focus to positive communication, reduce the negativity, and create more supportive environment. Next is the stagnation. When a team resists change or new ideas, it can feel like the team is stuck. Team building can encourage openness to new approaches, helping the team become more flexible and innovative. Team building doesn't just happen on its own, it follows a specific pattern, and it's a participative process where all the team members are involved. Next, the team building process begins with collecting data from each team member. This is usually done through surveys or interviews, where members can share their thoughts and experiences. This information is then shared with the whole team so everyone can look at it together. When the team sees this data, they can use it for self-examination. By analyzing the feedback, the team can discuss what's working well and what needs improvement. Through this process, the team learns to evaluate and adjust its actions, which helps them become more effective over time. Team building often focuses on solving specific issues that were identified in the first stage of data collection. So here's an example. If team members disagree about the team's purpose or goals, the team building process can focus on clarifying these goals. So this helps everyone understand the team's direction and priorities by addressing specific issues like this. The team building process helps the team work more smoothly and ensures that everyone is aligned and motivated. Thank you.
Good day, ma'am. I'm Christian Lago and I'm going to continue our topics which is about the team and the team building. So my part is about the typical stages in team building. So here we have five typical stages. So first one is the identification of a problem. So this is the starting point where the team needs to recognize a specific challenge or area for improvements. So dinhi ang team need nira identify ang mga root causes sa usa nga problems. So next is the collection of relevant data. Once the problem is identified, gather data to understand its scope and nature. So pag collect kini nga mga relevant data, pwede kita gumamit ang mga tools nga like for example an surveys, interviews, observations, and analyzing team performance metrics. So next is the data feedback and confrontation. So dinhi liwat i-represent na ang mga na-collect nga data para ma-acknowledge liwat an ma-acknowledge liwat han team and strengths ngan mga weaknesses. So the fourth one is the problem solving experience. So dinhi liwat na stage magbuburublig an team kumbaga mag-brainstorm para maka mag-create ideas parahan solution nga i-implement ito nga usa nga problem. So next is the on-the-job application and follow-up. So ang final stage dinhi i-apply mo ang mga learnings nga skills nga strategy sa real world team situations. So next is the skills useful in team building. The facilitators who assist the development of effective teams need to apply a broad range of skills, including the consultation of skills, interpersonal skills, and presentational skills. So, two additional and closely related skills stand out as critical success process consultations and feedback. So, these are skills both team leaders and team members are need. So, process consultation is a set of activities that help others focus on what is currently happening around them. The process consultant holds up a mirror to members and helps them to see themselves in action. So, the intent of process consultation is straightforward to help team members perceive, understand, and constructively to behavioral events. So next is the process consultants use facilitating behaviors to help teams functions more effectively. So first is the facilitating behaviors. So process consultant use facilitating behaviors to guide teams toward better performance. So these behaviors involves creating a safe and collaborative environment where team members feel comfortable sharing ideas, addressing conflicts and constructively, and making decisions together. So next is the observing team meetings. By closely observing team dynamics, consultants can identify patterns, communication breakdowns, and potential roadblocks. This allows them to understand the team's unique challenges and tailor their approach accordingly. So next is the probing and questioning. So probing and questioning is asking insightful questions help to clarify issues, uncover hidden assumption, and encourage deeper thinking. So this promotes a more thorough, more thorough analysis of problems and potential solution. So next is the confronting individuals. At times, it's necessary to address disruptive behaviors or unproductive patterns. So process consultants can confront uh, individuals in a constructive manner, focusing focusing on the impact of their actions and suggesting alternative approaches. So next is the encouraging open communication. So the facilitators create a safe and respectful environment where team members feel comfortable sharing their So ideas, concerns, and perspective openly. So next is the stimulating problem solving. So here is the process consultants guide teams through structured problem solving processes, helping them to define challenges, brainstorm solutions, and evaluate open effectively. Next is the preventing disruptive behaviors. So by recognizing and analyzing disruptive behaviors, consultants ensure that meetings stay focused and productive. This maintains a positive and collaborative atmosphere. So, attending to nonverbal cues. So, body language and tone of voice often reveal unspoken emotions and attitudes. So, process consultants pay attention to this case to gain a deeper understanding of team dynamics. So, ensuring widespread contribution, facilitator actively encourage participation from uh, all them members or from all the team members. So ensuring that everyone has a voice and opportunity to contribute to their ideas and perspective. So next is the encouraging learning. So process consultants creates opportunities for team members to learn from each other, share best practices, and develop new skills. This fosters cultures of continuous improvement. So by utilizing this facilitating behaviors process, consultants empower teams to overcome challenges, enhance their communications, and collaboration, and ultimately achieve greater success. So next is the desired effect on team members. So first is examine intended versus actual rules, identify problems. Next is the examine consequences of behaviors and react constructively to current behaviors events. Then explore new alternatives, think and act independently, and lastly is is develop cohesiveness. So next is the skills useful in team building. So feedback team members need feedback so they have useful data on which to base decisions. Feedback encourages them to understand how they are seen by others within the team or within their team and to take self correcting action. Next is the common outcomes of the effective team. First is the performance productivity improvements. Next is the improvement or the improved product quality, faster response time. And the third one is the more rapid innovation. The fourth is increased customer or client satisfaction. The fifth one is the better decision quality, and the last one is the greater efficiency. So we have the member behaviors. So first is the lower absenteeism, diminished turnover, and improve safety record. And the last one is the increased acts of organizational citizenship. So next is the we have the member attitude. So so first is the higher individual satisfaction. Next is the better interpersonal trust. And next is the stronger organizational commitment. And next is the enhanced team cohesiveness. And the next one is the camaraderie. Next is the individual territories versus the team space. So the use of teams at work has increased at an amazing pace. As a consequences or as a consequence, one interesting office design issues that arose was the use of physical space for employees. So specifically, manager needed to decide whether to provide enclosed work cubicles for each employees or to create a more open or landscape work area with lower or no partition between workspaces. So next is the ethical dilemmas within teams. So the first one is the team member appraisals. So ang dilemma hining team member appraisals is how to fairly objectively assess individual contribution when team members work collaboratively, making it difficult to isolate individual performance. So like for example, team a team member might be a strong contributor but be less visible than others, leading to unfair appraisal. So next is the member assistance. So ang dilemma ini nga member assistance is the balancing the need to help team members who are struggling with the potential for enabling or rewarding productive behavior. So, for example, here is a team member might consistently rely on others to complete tasks, creating an imbalance in workload and effort. So, next is the team selection. So, the dilemma here is the ensuring that team members are selected based on merit and qualification rather than personal biases or favoritism. So, for example, here is a manager might select a friend for a team role despite lacking for necessary skills to maintain a personal connection. So next is the team perfection. So the dilemma here is the balancing the pursuit of high performance with the recognition that perfection is unattainable and that healthy teams can embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. So, for example, a team might be overly focused on avoiding errors, leading to a culture of fear and reluctance to take risk. So, next is the team rewards. So, the dilemma here is the ensuring that rewards are distributed fairly and equitably among team members, even when individual contributions vary. So, example there is the team might receive a bonus for achieving a goal, but the reward might be divided equally. So, even if some members contributed significantly more than others. So, next is the term, self-managing teams. Self-managing teams is also known as self-reliant or self-directed teams. They they are natural work groups that are given substantial autonomy and in return are asked to control their own behavior and produce significant results. So the combination of empowerment and training to plan, direct, monitor, and control their own activities distinguishes these teams from many others. So they have wide-ranging autonomy and freedom, coupled with the capability to act like managers. So next is the advantages. So we have first is the improved flexibility of staff. Next is the more efficient operation through the reduced number of job qualifications. And next is the lower absenteeism and turnover rates. And the last one is the higher levels of organizational commitment and job satisfactions. So meanwhile, we have also disadvantages. So first is the extended time to implement them. Ay, so next is the high training investment as members learn new skills. And next is the early innovations due to job rotation. And that last one is the inability or unwillingness of some employees to adapt to team structures. So next is the contrasting supervisory roles under two structures. So first is the traditional structures. So traditional structures emphasizes control and efficiency, while the flat structure prioritizes collaborations and empowerment. The supervisor's role in each structure reflects these different priorities, with traditional supervisors focusing on directing tasks and enforcing rules, and flat is flat is structures supervisor acting as mentors and guides. The best structures depends on the specific needs and goals of the organizations. So next is the authority figure. So authority figures is the supervisors holds position of power and authority, making decisions and giving directives, focus on control and compliance. So next is the expert teacher. So expert teacher is the supervisor possesses specialized knowledge and skills, training and guiding team members. And the focus of expert teacher is on imparting knowledge and ensuring tasks are performed correctly. So next is the problem solver. So the problem solver is the supervisor task ownership of problems and provide solutions, often acting inadequate independently. So the focus here is on resolving issues quickly and efficiently. Next is the coordinator. Coordinator is the supervisor manages tasks, resources, and deadlines, ensuring smooth workflow. So the focus here is on planning, scheduling, and ensuring projects stay on the track. Next is the self-managing team structure. So in self-managing team structure, we have first is the coach and counselor. So coach and counselor is the supervisor guides and supports team members, helping them develop their skills and address performance issues, and the focus here is on individual growth and development. So next is the champion and cheerleader. So the supervisor advocates for the team, promoting their accomplishment and removing obstacles. So the her focus oh, the focus of champion and cheerleader here is on team morale, motivation, and success. So next is the resource allocator. So the supervisor ensures the team has the necessary resources to perform their work, including tools, information, and support. So next is the ano, liaison, li- liaison and boundary manager. So the supervisor acts as a bridge between the team and the other departments, ensuring smooth communication and collaboration. So the focus here is on facilitating external relationship and removing barriers. So next is the facilitator. The facilitator is the supervisor guides team discussions, encourages participation, and helps the team make decisions. And the focus is on fostering collaboration, communication, and problem solving within the team. So next is the virtual teams. Virtual teams is the information technology has had a power effect on individual behavior in organization, and its effect is equally strong on social networks at the team level. So technology has allowed the emergence of virtual teams, like for example the groups of individuals from around the globe that meet through the use of technologies or technological aids without the all of their members being present in the same location. So that's all po. Thank you.